Nebraska is going to win 9 football games this year. Did you know that'll be the first time they have won 6 or more games and made a bowl game since 2016? Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. That's where we're at. That's where we're at with Nebraska football. And there are a couple of reasons why I think that Nebraska is going to be not what they're capable of, not what they once were, but what people have been waiting for with Nebraska, which is, can you just be a good team? Can you just go out there and be a top half team in the Big Ten? Because with the resources, support, geography, they should be able to do that. And I think Matt Rhule can do that. So just a glimpse at their roster. They bring in Rhule, who many services had as number 1 quarterback in the class of 2024. He's a true freshman. There's going to be a learning curve. Well, what would you like to have with a learning curve at the quarterback position? How about 4 straight home games? That Week 2 Colorado game is no joke. It is no joke because despite all the buzz and the flair and the fluff with Deion Sanders and company, as I talked about last week on the show, that's a bowl team. You can't just overlook somebody who beat you last year and is better than they were a year before. Nebraska, though, has also improved, and they're about a 5 to 6 point favorite in this game, according to our friends at FanDuel. But Nebraska opens with UTEP. Then they play Colorado, Northern Illinois, and then Illinois. The opportunity to go 4-0 and maybe even, dare I say, creep into the top 25 is readily available. Then they go at Purdue. Is that a gauntlet of a start? When you're a true freshman trying to work your way into the college football world, is that some brutal schedule that is just impossible to overcome? No, it absolutely is not. So their quarterback is going to get a chance to get cooking at home, get acclimated to college football, and the Colorado game kind of throwing you into the fire a little bit. You got Shedeur Sanders on the other side. Rhule is a really talented dude. Really talented dude. Excited to see what he does, and I hope, oh goodness, for the sake of Nebraska fans, I hope that they are going to be able to throw the ball better than last year. Their leading receiver, it's just, I can't even say this aloud without physically cringing. Their leading receiver had 310 yards. Stanford's Alec Iomanner against Travis Hunter had 295 in a game. In a game, Nebraska's leading receiver on the year, 310 yards. So I think that's going to take a step forward. And there's some talent in that wide receiver room. I don't think it's, a top tier wide receiver core in the Big Ten or anything of the sorts. But should they be more productive than last year with their passing game? Yes. Yes, they should be. Rhule doesn't need to be Trevor Lawrence as a true freshman. He just needs to be like Cade Klubnik at Clemson. Just have some bumps and bruises, take your lumps, and just have a decent floor. Can you give me a solid floor at quarterback? That's all Nebraska's looking for here. By the way, do you know why Nebraska's defensive staff is so highly regarded? Well, here's why. In 2022, before Matt Rhule got there, the Cornhuskers allowed about 27 points per game. That's not a great number. They were a better offense than they were a season ago. But that jump went from 27 points per game to just over 18 points per game. That's a big jump. That's not they got a little better. That's, wait a minute. This is a program that has not recruited at the highest level, and certainly not what it is capable of. This is a program that has not made a bowl game since 2016, and suddenly the staff comes in and in their first year, they're giving up less than 20 points a game. Wait a minute, why weren't they any good? Because they couldn't throw the ball. They couldn't move the ball. That's why Rhule is the key. And by the way, Nebraska, top 5 in the country in returning production. And sure, you think of them as a team that was a mess, a disaster, a fiasco, more one-possession losses last year. What do you think their record was? 5-7. 5-7. Matt Rhule in 1 year almost did what no coach has done, Mike Riley or Scott Frost, since 2016. He almost did that in 1 year. So yeah, I have faith in Nebraska's ability to make a sizable leap forward here. returning production, promising young quarterback. Now, unproven, and Nebraska's not a Big Ten title contender this year. If they had a better quarterback, maybe. If they brought in a few more receivers, maybe. But again, we're just looking for a higher floor. But the reason that their record, as I mentioned earlier on the show, can be closer to Georgia, 12 days to college football, by the way. The reason their record can be closer to Georgia than you think is because Nebraska's schedule works out so favorably. UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, Illinois, at Purdue, Rutgers at home, at Indiana, at Ohio State, that's a loss. Host UCLA, who they're a better team than, before they go at USC, host Wisconsin, at Iowa. Now, the last 3 games, that's where it starts to get tricky. And so, for the part of the schedule that is going to ultimately define Nebraska's season, Dylan Rhule, presuming he stays healthy, and gosh, I hope he does, because he could be an electrifying player in college football this year, will have 9 games under his belt. I like the way that lines up. So UTEP, week 1, I think that's a win. Colorado, week 2, I also have that as a win. Illinois, week 3, that should be a win. Northern Illinois, week 3. Illinois, week 4. Those should be 4 wins in a row at home. Then things start to get testy. You have to go to West Lafayette, prove you can win on the road. I think they're a better team than Purdue this season. And is Hudson Card good enough to make me feel like there's a big quarterback gap between him and the true freshman? We'll see. We'll see. Hudson Card, solid, capable, respectable, not electric. So I think Nebraska goes in there, wins that game. Then they come back home, and I think they lose to Rutgers. Yeah, in front of that home crowd. I think Rutgers is going to go into Lincoln. This sounds like a crazy notion. Who returns 14 starters from a 7-6 team last year? Rutgers and Greg Schiano. Is it his first year? No, it's not. Got the culture established. Got some players. I think Rutgers goes in there and gets the win. At Indiana, that's a win. At Ohio State, that's a loss. UCLA at home, that's a win. Here's the only point of contention that USC fans had with my 9-3 schedule prediction for the Trojans in their first year in the Big Ten. I think Nebraska can go to USC, which is not the hardest place to play. The numbers bear that out, by the way. I think they can go in there and win that football game. If this were early in the year, if you swapped Purdue and USC, no, I think the Trojans win. But right now, when you're going to have 8 games under the belt for Dylan Rhule, they'll be coming off a win against UCLA. I think they can go into the Coliseum and beat the Trojans. I think they come back home and beat Wisconsin before they lose to Iowa last week of the regular season. Now, not every single one of those games is a lock to me. I don't have a toss-up in here, but USC is going to be a competitive game. Wisconsin will be a competitive game. At Iowa, frankly, will be a competitive game. I have that as a loss. They could easily win at Rutgers. I have that as a loss. But 9-3 feels so within reach for Nebraska. And that, because their schedule is so favorable and they can kind of ease their freshman quarterback into it and then go through the difficult stretch at USC, host Wisconsin, at Iowa. That's a tough stretch of games in the Big Ten. But Dylan Rhule won't be as early in his career as when they take on Colorado or when they travel to West Lafayette to play Purdue. Nebraska, 9-3. Write it down right now.